candle going.
Oh, right. Yes, candles.
We're going to be all right.
Yeah, look at that. Valentine's Day right tomorrow. Amazing. And we got the gods and goddesses, the lords and ladies, or the goddesses and lords all up in here.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Priestess View. We are so glad to be here. I'm Goddess Rhonda, and of course, we have with us our beautiful Goddess Starr. I'm just going to go and make sure I mute my...
I muted mine. I thought it was me.
Okay, I'm all muted.
Okay.
So that it's not going to make weird noises. So we are so glad to be back. We've had all kinds of electric issues, and then we had a really nasty bus driver assault, Goddess Starr. It's just been craziness. What's been going on? But here we are. We have persevered, and we are back again with our Black Hat Tea Party, although I'm having wine tonight instead of tea. Celebrate.
Me too.
Being here with you, beautiful gods and goddesses with us. Welcome back, and we're so glad to see you. Cheers.
Yes, wine it is. This is our kind of tea. And to you
we'll
all.
We'll call it witchy tea, is what we'll call it. So anyway, as always, before we begin, we'd like to cast our circle of protection around us. All hail, our lords and ladies of the East, our brothers and sisters, our brother and patron, the sacred element of air, Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee, my lords and ladies. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you. So it is. So mote it be.
So it is. So mote it be. All hail, our lords and ladies of the South, my brothers and sisters, brother and patron, sacred element of fire. Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee. I charge you, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face a direction, end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is. So mote it be.
So it is. All hail, our lords and ladies of the West, our brothers and sisters, our sister and patron, the sacred element of water, Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee, my lords and ladies. I charge thee, please cause a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face your direction, from corner to corner and end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you. So it is. So mote it be.
And so it is. So mote it be. All hail, our lords and ladies of the North, my brothers and sisters, my sister and patron, the sacred element of earth. Namaste. Divine honor, love, joy, peace, and respect to thee. I choose a barrier of protection through all of our walls that face a direction, end to end. Let peace and protection reign herein. Thank you, and so it is. So mote it be.
So it is. So mote it be. And we now bring down the divine white light from the sacred source of all well-being and fill all of our spaces with peace and protection always. So it is. So mote it be.
So it is. And so mote it be.
So welcome back, everybody. Again, we are so glad to be here. It's actually, I just feel like this big sense of relief just to be back on the show and be in your presence and be in your energy. We are really, really glad. And so tonight we're just going to kick back. We're having our Black Hat tea / wine / soda / whatever you want to drink. Whatever you want to drink right now. And you know, we managed to rummage up hats that fit us, because last time I could only find I had this big giant hat here,
This is
that when I
huge.
put it on, though, it's just so huge. You know, it just, you won't be able to see it. It just looks like I'm having a bad hair day with the fur around it. So I'm going to keep it to the side. But for this show, I did invest in this little baby witch's hat that I got off of eBay for like $5. So I thought that was a good deal just to have for the show. And I did want to bring up, because Goddess Starr has a big giant hat too. Goddess Starr, show them your hat.
Oh, Goddess, look at this. When we formed the New York City Black Society, this is what I created. And since then, it's been my Black Hat Society hat. As you can see, it is pretty darn big and even has a tail.
Wow, that is big. That's like a big
Yeah,
giant.
it has a tool hat, a tool tail and everything else. It's
But
awesome.
it's beautiful, though.
Thank you, Goddesses. Look at that.
It's beautiful. And I
So
did
it's
want to tell
yours.
everybody,
It's yours.
you know, as witches, if you buy ready-made fancy schmancy hats like these, they're going to cost you a fortune. It's so much cheaper to go and just get the hat. You can just get a plain black hat for like $6 on eBay and decorate it yourself. Put your own stuff on here. I put all of my own pentacles and everything else on here. Decorate it the way you want to decorate it. My goal now is to make a pink witch's hat because I really want one. Because I've seen them from people who custom make them, and they want a lot of money for them. And we as witches, we can make our own. So anyway, we're going to be chatting. If you're on your computer, the chat room is going to be to the right of your screen. I'm not sure if you're on a tablet or a phone. You might have to scroll down to see it. I'm not quite sure how that works. I'll have to experiment with that on my phone. Let me turn my phone off. I'll have to experiment that.
What I was doing, turning my phone off so that no one rings me in between and you guys have to hear my conversation.
I know, my loud ring.
Not happening.
So we're going to talk about, basically, we're going to talk about some of our favorite shows. We're going to answer some questions that was posed to us in our Priestess View group chat room, which, by the way, anyone can join. You just go on Facebook and type in the Priestess View group, and we'll come up, and you can just go ahead and join. And we put little things in there and stuff, and communicate with each other in there. And so we're just really here to kick back. And if you have any questions that you would like for us to answer, anything at all, because this is like more of a general kind of a show where we're just chilling and relaxing. If you have any questions, or we'd love to hear your comments, go right ahead and put them in the chat room. We do check on the chat room fairly regularly to see, if anybody is there asking questions or making comments. And blessed be Ashley, blessed be J.K. We're just so glad that you're here with us tonight.
Absolutely.
So let's start off with, let's see, what question do we want to start off with? Let's go with some of our favorite witch shows, because I know we've talked about witch shows before, but I want to talk specifically about some things that I've been noticing when I watch these shows. So just recently, I went on a Charmed binge. I got up to the point where Prue dies, because I was really angry. I had forgotten how angry I was when they took her off the show. So I haven't progressed past that because I'm still carrying a grudge, even though this was like, 20 years ago. But I will try to get past it because I do think there's interesting things in there. But one of the things, when you watch it from the beginning, and I don't think I got to watch it all the way from the beginning when it first came on, because I was seeing things that I don't recognize. Even the music was different. And I'm watching the show, and I noticed that they keep saying over and over again, I mean, this is a constant theme about not using magic for personal gain. It's like this huge theme. They do it in every single show. And I'm like, I have a real problem with that, because since we are witches and we basically manifest the things that we want to manifest in our lives, quite frankly, if you're a witch, I don't think you can do magic without some kind of personal gain. I mean, even if you say, I'm only going to do magic for my friends and make sure that they're healthy and they're feeling good and things like that. It's still personal gain because you're doing it so that you feel better, so that you feel like you're doing something to help them. So you get that reward when they're saying, oh, thank you, you've helped me so much. Or even if you don't tell them that you're helping them and they come back and say, oh, my life has so changed for the better, and you feel good, that's still personal gain.
Yeah.
And that show is riddled with personal gain.
Personal
As
gain,
much
yeah.
as they keep preaching and preaching, oh, you know, Prue, you can't do that, it's personal gain, or you can't do that, it's personal gain. What's her face? Piper, actually, I hope this isn't TMI. I hope we don't have any little children listening. But she actually froze her boyfriend while they were having sex so that she could enjoy that particular position he was in longer, while he had no idea that that was happening. And my mouth was hanging open when I saw that. I'm like, didn't y'all just say, you know, no personal gain? And they do it all the time. They'll freeze people they don't want to talk to. They do all kinds of stuff. But they're like, hey, no personal gain. And I think that because a lot of witches say that, I think it causes conflict in our magic when if we have an inner belief that we're not supposed to do things for personal gain, but you're trying to manifest, you know, $500 to pay your car payment or $1,000 to pay your rent or whatever it is you're trying to manifest. No matter what you're doing, it is for personal gain. What do you think about that, Goddess Starr?
Oh, 100%, 100%. But I do have to say, the show Charmed was, what they did was they consulted some, I don't know if it's covens they were called, or a witch shop in California, that they got a lot of what they were saying, other than the magical part to, you know, all the big spectacular show part of it. They consulted with witches to put the things into the show. That's why some grains of it, we saw that were true, like when they did Samhain and stuff like that. And I'll tell you honestly, there are a lot of groups that believe that part. So they in turn probably pass that on to them. And honestly speaking, like you said, there's no way for it to not in some way be a personal gain. Otherwise, you know, the sisters would have given up already, because how could they possibly help if they helping everyone that they're doing? At the end, weren't they all satisfied that they accomplished something, or they were very saddened when they were not able to accomplish whatever it was?
Right.
You know, so it negates a lot of it, which is why it was put there, because in a way I'm glad about it, not all the way, because it's putting out of what a lot of either Wiccans or witches believe, and making them at the same time realize no matter what, look at it, like you said, no matter what, there is some sort of personal gain. And if people are not seeing that beyond whatever it is, they have to use their intelligence enough to realize that, okay, let's look beyond this and see for what it is. On the other hand, I didn't agree with it, for on the other hand, because of how many people I've seen and it's ingrained in them now, because they've enjoyed the show. I've enjoyed the show. We've all enjoyed the show. And a lot of them don't know any better. It's so ingrained in them about the personal gain that I've heard people in the classes I'm about to do in first degree and stuff saying it, and I have to negate that with them. Over the years, I've heard students say it, and I'm like, "What are you speaking about?" You know, and I know they're not going to say charmed. They'll say, because then it looks silly that they're quoting something from a show, so they will say, "Oh, you know, from so and so and so," but I know it's from there, and that part they have to realize on their own, or be taught on their own. Like, they stop ingraining that as part of your witchcraft. It cannot be. Otherwise, you would have actually, and I think it's something like you said, I think it hurts a lot of witches, because a lot of them are in dire straits. They have a hard time getting whatever it is, or they cannot even accomplish $500 to pay for their things, or whatever it is that went wrong, because they're still living with that concept of personal gain. But you have to personal gain to pay your rent. You have to pay your gas bill, or whatever else that you have to pay And if you don't live and pay for it, you'll be thrown out on the street, totally
That's right.
homeless. You know, and when you think about it, if there, it's the reason why if you look on Facebook, there are so many people stating things like, if I do it, the people doing readings, they should not be charging. It's a gift they're given. They should not be charging. Or statements, and there have been big fights on Facebook with it. Facebook big fights,
Yeah.
if you want to call it. I mean, huge because of it. You know, things like I forgot which one that they said they have a fight about is when witches classes, which I'm like, you're not making any sense at all. I've had people say, when I say I have to pay, I would answer them, well, I have to pay the rent for the space. Well, do it outside. First of all, we're not living in an all season. We're not living in an all season weather. And even if we were, because it's public space, we started out in the parks and everything. We had types of people that came up and they said, well, and we would say, I'm sorry, there's a class going on. And they're like, well, it's open public space. I could sit right here. And they joined us, you know, and they're right. You cannot do that. And then other people would say, I'll bring them in your home. Well, I'm sorry, no, I am not bringing a bunch of people into my home just like that. My home is big to me.
Right.
On it, and I am not doing that. I have seen people do that over the years and things have gone wrong or right or whatever it is. Good on them if it works for them. It does not work for me. This is New York City. Everything is tiny, not happening. Everybody's personal thing. And honestly speaking, we, in a way, we are pretty much not gaining anything. We gain enough to pay for our spaces and everything and our expenses, sometimes not even. And so we're basically doing it out of our passion and our love for what we do.
Right.
People sit in judgment of us. I am sorry, but now your asses are on your own to be sitting on judgment of other people and what they're doing and presuming to know what it is they're personally gaining. And I'm always amazed at that, you know. I don't come in your home to tell you how to run. I'm in your home how to run your coven or your whatever it is. So you have no reasoning to be. But they all seem to be able to mind each other's businesses, you know. So I know I kind of went off rambling, but it that kind of spoke to me a bit.
Well,
You know?
no, what you're saying is true. Do you hear feedback?
Nope, not on my end. I don't hear anything now.
Is my voice coming through clearly?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
hearing any kickbacks or anything.
That's weird because I keep hearing a feedback. But anyway, what's more important about that, and also you also keep in mind, to be fair, is that many of us also come from a Christian background where the same principle
Yep.
is hammered into you. You know, money is the root of all evil.
Well,
It's easier
yes.
for a camel to go through the head of a needle than to get into heaven. And
I never heard that one.
Yeah, that's actually a Bible passage, that it's
Okay.
easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to go to heaven. And so, because that's also ingrained, you know, when things are ingrained into your subconscious when you're a kid, it becomes a core belief. And these beliefs of we're not supposed to have any kind of personal gain can really interfere with what you're trying to do. Because even though consciously you're like, okay, I need, you know, $1,000 to pay my mortgage this month, and you're working your candle, if the inside of you is like, you know, that's wrong, you're not supposed to be asking for personal gain, then you're just putting conflicting energies into your work. And a lot of times that's why it won't work, because your intention, your emotions, they all have to be focused on that thing that you want. And if inside of you, you feel like you shouldn't have this, it's wrong to ask for it, you know, all of these things, then it can really hurt what you're trying to do for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
So
and it's misleading. It's very misleading altogether.
Oh, it is misleading. And, you know, as I'm watching the show, because I've been a witch for a long time now, I can see, well, what you're doing right now is personal gain. What you're doing right now is personal gain. You know, freezing people so that you can get away from them, and doing all these things. This is all personal gain, the things that they're trying to do, get jobs and so forth and so on. I know what's going on, but when a lot of people, when they watch these shows, they're not making that connection. All they hear are the words, don't do no personal gain, no personal gain. We're not supposed to use magic for personal gain. That's what they're hearing. They're not seeing the inconsistencies to see, oh, no matter how much they're saying that, they're still doing stuff for their own personal gain. They brought themselves back. They've had, what's his face? What's the white lighter's name? I can't think of his name.
Leo.
Leo. If they died, the sisters have died several times in that show.
Yep.
And they're always, Leo, bring her back, Leo, and they bring her back. And again, if that's not personal gain, because they couldn't stand the idea of losing their sister. I mean, what bigger personal gain is that? To bring your family member who you lost back to life.
Yeah, we would all love to be able to do that,
Of
that
course.
That loved family member, So I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's true. So it's important, I think. This is part of our Can You Learn Magic from TV? That's part of the topic that we're talking about. While there is great information that you can also get if you're paying attention, I just did not like that was in. It was almost in every single show where they're like, oh, no personal gain. And then they went right forth to do their own little personal gain thing that they wanted to do. Or they showed that they had double standards like Phoebe, and I hope you guys know Charmed that I'm talking about, but even if you don't, it's just a quick story about her.
Yeah.
Phoebe was, she just couldn't tell a lie. She couldn't stand if anybody was lying. We always have to do the right thing. She would go after her sisters. No, we have to do the right thing. And she's very judgmental when she felt if they were doing personal gain or doing something that they shouldn't be doing or keeping a secret. She was even prepared to go into court and just tell everybody that they were witches instead of lying under oath and saying, that they weren't. She was like, no, we're just going to go and tell. And if they know, then at least they know and it's the truth and blah, 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 blah. Then she falls in love with a demon and starts lying her ass off. Lied about everything. Lied about him, lied about their affair, lied over and over and over again, but would get on her sisters when she felt that her sisters weren't doing right. So what I really liked about the show is that I do think it shows us as people, where we don't necessarily practice what we preach, where we might have double standards when it comes to us getting what we want. We might say, oh, no, don't do that. It's bad for you. But we're going to go ahead and slink over and do it ourselves. It really does show that despite all the inconsistencies and the double standards, I think it shows us as people, because even though in our thoughts, in our conscious thoughts and our words, we do have this, we're going to be righteous and do the right thing attitude. But as people, we want things and we're going for it.
Yeah. So and you know what? We do try. We're not saying that we always have this double standard. We do try to hold ourselves to that, And the thing is that I think each person individually, no one is supposed to judge you. You have to individually decide what your rights and wrongs are.
Right.
What your morality codes are for yourself. Does it hurt anyone or anything like that? You have to decide for yourself, what you want to do with it, how you're going to handle it, because first of all, you have to sit back and look at all of these shows. I love them, but they're entertainment. See them for what they are. They are strictly entertainment. Although shows like Charmed, it's just entertainment. Some of their things have that grain of truth, just like anything else.
Right.
When they did Samhain or Halloween on that show, so much of it when they went back in time was so beautifully honest and
it was beautiful.
That I was just like, yes, rock on. They did this one, more in the vein of the true witch. So it was kind of cool. And all instances where it was literally like the laurel leaf for protection and apple core and all of that. those are all real.
Yeah.
You know, so they're grains of things that they took, they consulted with, and they used those grains of honesty and truth as to what we do, and then they did the rest because it's Hollywood. No, that's what they do. You know, they're supposed to make it be a certain way so that you can enjoy it.
Right.
And a lot of shows that came after that one use that as part of their formula. No matter what they say, they've all kind of copycatted away because they saw how successful that show was. You know, so I would say more power to it. I was very impressed by it in the sense of I was so proud to have a show that I could run home to and be partially me.
Right.
You know, so it was kind of cool.
It was. It is a cool show, and there are some really cool things that you can get from it. But I just wanted to bring up, because I know some people, they're hearing dominant, and when they just hear the words, they hear the words. And unfortunately, there are people who look at shows like these and accept them as truth. Like, you know, oh, we're going to go ahead and get a Ouija board for our grandmother to talk to us because that's what they did in Charmed. You know, and they'll just whip out the Ouija board. Now, Charm doesn't go over protection spells and calling quarters and things like that. They just whip out their grandmother's Ouija board. So there are some dangers in just taking what they say as complete truth and not really looking into the other parts of it. But there are some really good things. And I'll tell you one thing that I have noticed in all of these shows, because I tend to escape into any magic show that the Witches of East End,
Me too.
Charmed, Harry Potter, Supernatural, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's the world I choose to escape into instead of the regular TV programs. But one of the things I have noticed in each of these, both Charmed and the Witches of East End, and the Witches of East End also had the theme of we didn't know we were witches, the mother trying to hide it, that kind of thing. I know they took that right from Charmed.
Yeah, they all ding it.
They did not have this, oh, there's no personal gain for what we do stuff. They just went ahead and did what they needed to do, which, you know, we were supposed to do, really. But one of the things that I've noticed in all of these shows is that despite all of the gifts that these witch characters have, they're telekinetic, they've got pyrokinesis, they can do all of these things with their powers that they have in them, they still use potions and talismans. I love that. I love seeing them whipping up their potions and whipping, you know, creating their talismans. They're still practicing the craft. They're crafting things. They're not just relying on, oh, I'll just use my telekinesis to push someone away, or I'll just throw fire at them, or I'll just do this, or whatever it is. They actually work their potions. They all have a book of shadows. Every single one of them will go to their antique book of shadows that has been passed down for millions of generations to actually look up spells and create things that we as witches do. Because I love creating potions and talismans and wands and all that stuff. I love that stuff. And so I do really like that they do that they create potions and talismans and incenses and things like that. Despite all of these inherent gifts, they still practice crafting things. And I think that's a really good message too, because it's a part of who we are. I mean, don't you love it, Goddess Starr? Don't you love grinding up your herbs and any oils? And
you know how we are. We live it, we breathe it, we sneeze it, we do everything with it. We all roll up inside of it. It's what we do. We witches, you know, and it's what I tell myself to say, and I have not seen the rest of them. But taking a grain of salt from, say, Practical Magic, the movie, with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock, I am sure, and even with Charmed, I saw it there. So I'm presuming it's with the other shows too. The whole idea of practicing from a distance or looking down your nose at it as if it's not sort of beneath you, but it's like, okay, I'll just practice it when I need certain things, but it's not really in my daily life. or
Right.
different things like that. And a lot of them, even in charm, they kind of let you know you can't just decide that I'm going to look down at my nose at it and just practice one thing or whatever it is. They keep telling you to practice, work on your magic, work on your craft, practice it all the time so that you can become more proficient, so that it becomes part of your daily life. And I love when I see that, because you were telling me about that show, Magic or Magician or whatever it is that
The
you were telling
magician.
me. It's like they're all telling you practicing your craft takes work. It's not a fad. It's not anything like that. It actually takes work, which a lot of people are not willing to put in. They come in with the fatty idea, oh, I want to be a witch. And can we get to the spells right now and or whatever it is right now really quickly? And they don't want to learn the things that they need to
Right.
learn because it's too tedious, or it's too, I thought this was going to be more fun. You know, this is boring or whatever.
Right.
Everything is all part of your learning. And you got to take Christians for what they are. They learn their shit inside out. They
That's
learn it
right.
inside out, and they will practice that thing.
That's right.
Take it for them. They live it, they breathe it, they sneeze it, they shit it, everything. Get that part. you, know, you know what I mean?
Okay, maybe that was TMI. That was a little
Yeah. You know what I mean?
But I do know what you mean. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we don't. A lot of witches that we know, they just don't. They're public witches, in the sense of, I don't mean like, well known. I mean they practice it publicly for you to see. But other than that, they don't practice it or live it as a daily part of their life. And it's either you are a witch or you're not. You can't practice it for certain parts or for certain things. And my magic didn't work or whatever it is. You can't. It's just not done the way, it's not done right that way. You're not being true to yourself and to your craft. And you have to, one thing about being a witch is you really have to be true to yourself. Learn your shit. Learn all of it well. Practice it. Live it daily, for it to work right for you. So that when you do it without thinking. I know you do that, Goddess Rhonda. You just practice, you just do it because you're like, I know my stuff. And I get it done, and it's going to work. I walk away, and you walk away. You don't think about it. Whereas if you are one of the ones that are doing this, of practicing it every now and then and not really doing it, you will constantly be going, I'm not sure if I did that right.
Right.
Did I do that right? Star, did I do that right? I'm like, relax. If you're living it and breathing it, you're a witch. You're living it the right way, I'm not here to judge it. I'm not here to tell you right or wrong with it, and that's all I'm saying about it. It's like they have to, no matter what, all those shows, Magician, all of them, the grain that I hear with all of them when I read the little synopsis for them is practicing that craft in one form or another. You have to practice it, tedious or not, boring or not, practice it, live it, and breathe it.
Absolutely. And not only that, there's another element to consider as well with that. And this would fall under the dangers of dabbling in magic. There's other things to consider as well. This is a lifestyle. I go to bed as a witch. I wake up as a witch. I do my devotionals and my ceremonies as soon as I crawl out of bed in the morning. Greet the elements, greet the world, greet my plants. There's a lot. My ancestors, I make offerings. I feed them every day. What happens is if you're just a dabbler, when you think of the elements, earth, air, fire, water, they all contain, and wood, metal, and stone if you're from Asia.
Yeah.
They all contain divine consciousness. They're all alive. They're in their live energy with personalities and everything else. If you just come to them when you need them, don't you ever have those friends that only come to you when they want something? They're not your friends, to say, hey, let's just chill out or hang out or do anything, and let's just chill together. It's just, I need something. They come when their hand is out. The universe can look at you the same way. When you just make I've got fire burning around me almost all day long. If you're just using the element of fire once in a blue moon to get something that you want, it's really an insult. If you're calling on the gods and the goddesses once in a while just to get what you want, and you're not for the rest of the time showing appreciation or making offerings to them or lighting candles to them just to say thanks, just to say hi, getting up in the morning and greeting your lords and ladies, greeting your ancestors, you know, when you do this, you develop a relationship with them. That's why I have confidence. If I ask my candle, if I ask the element, the divine consciousness of the element of fire to bring me something, I already know it's going to happen because I make offerings to fire every day. I've shown that I'm not just here to take advantage. This is my family. These energies, they're my friends, they're my families, they support me, and I want to show that I appreciate that. And you have to develop relationships with everything that you're using. You develop relationships with your wands, you develop relationships with your tools. You're using them all the time. You have energy exchanges. You don't want to be that person that the universe like, oh God, here she comes again. All she wants is she wants money or she wants a boyfriend. And she never gives back. She never says thank you. She never does anything. She never uses us to help anybody else. It's always all about her and when she feels like it. And anything, every other time she just throws us into the closet and doesn't even pay attention to us. That's rude. Because you wouldn't want a person to treat you that way. I know I've had people treat me that way where they only call me if they want something. And I find that quite irksome. So you don't want the gods and goddesses and the elements and whatever other energies you utilize to create what you want. You don't want to be looked at as that person because they might not just be all that willing to put the effort in. After a while, they're going to be like, well, screw you then, because you only come here when you want something, not even offering me anything. You're just making a demand like I'm supposed to do something for you. You know, that's not right, and it's rude. There is etiquette when you're a witch. You always are compassionate with who you say thank you. You're polite. You make offerings. You give them some flowers or a glass of wine or anything to say, hey, you know what? I really do appreciate you every day, not just when you're doing something for me. And that's when they work with you even more because they know you're not full of it. They know you're not just self-centered. They know that you have embraced them as a part of your own energy. You're a part of them. They're a part of you, and they'll work harmoniously with you, as opposed to you just being, oh, well, element of fire, I need you to bring me $1,000 by the end of the month. Okay, thanks, and walk away. That's rude. And so you do want to show respect. You want to show courtesy. And you want to go ahead and develop those relationships, particularly with the element. I mean, I love utilizing fire, even though, and it's probably because I'm such a water girl that fire helps to balance out all this water that I carry. So it really helps me. But I use all of the elements, air, earth, fire, water, wood, metal, stone. I've developed relationships with all of them because I utilize all of them. And that's one of the things we see a lot in these shows. You see a lot of people will do candle magic. And so a lot of people will only do candle magic. Well, if you, depending on what your sign is, you know, you have a patron element. If you make no relationships with anybody but your patron element who was assigned here to help you, because if you're a water sign, if you're an earth sign, a fire sign, an air sign, take some time every day, even if it's just a couple of minutes, to say thank you to your patron element and make them some kind of offering. If you're air, you can burn a little incense cone for them or create a little special loving incense for them if you want to, if you've got the time to and wherewithal to craft some incense for yourself, or to take a bowl of water and add some rose drops and say thanks if you're a water sign. I mean, at least develop a relationship with your patrons. Don't just show up when you need something, because you don't want a person to do that to you. You know how annoying that is. You don't even want to answer the phone when you see that person calling. It's like, oh,
what do they want?
What do they want now? You know, you don't want the universe to have that attitude towards you. They're like, oh, here she comes again, and I don't even know if I even want to listen to her. We'll just let her make her plea, and if I get around to it, I will, because Goddess Rhonda and Goddess Starr over there, they thank me every day, so I'm going to go ahead and tend to them first. So you have to look at these things and not just dabble, because it's rude to treat the spirit world with rudeness that you would not want to treat a human with. It's wrong. And that's something that you might want to think about, you know, also as far as dabbling goes. Let's take a look in our chat room, see if we've got any questions to see what's happening here. Okay, we've got Ashley asks, what is viewpoint on the show The Magicians? I only watched most of the first season before it really got on my nerves. First of all, let's be clear that the show The Magicians is not really about so much witchcraft as far as us being witches, working with the elements, working with these things. They are magicians. There's a difference. And the magicians, there is no spirituality involved whatsoever. There's no candles, there's no elements or anything like that. They're just learning whatever it is that their gifts are, and they use a lot of hand magic. And I remember watching it one day towards the end of when it started to get on my last nerves, and I can't remember because it was such a long time. I'm trying to remember the whole thing that started that enraged me. But one of the guys or one of the girls, I can't quite remember, they do a lot of hand magic where you have to do this, and you're doing all these things with your hands. And he was defending himself, and he's standing there doing all these things with his hands. And I'm like, if that was a street fight, by the time it took the 5 minutes it took for you to do all this, someone would have knocked your ass out on the street. You would be knocked out. Your ass would be dead. Period. Because you're in a fight with someone, you don't have 5 minutes to say, oh, excuse me, hold on while I do my hand magic to counter you. And you're standing there and you're doing all this stuff. Your butt would be grass doing that. There was just a lot, and maybe I just get annoyed because I look at it as a witch and, kind of irritate. There is no spirituality at all in that show whatsoever. It is just being a magician and learning this particular hand magic. And there was a guy on there, I don't remember what this character's name is. He's an East Indian character on the show. He was so rude, it was beyond the pale. He was really why I couldn't watch the show anymore, because he was just so rude and so nasty. He shouldn't have even been taught any kind of magic, because he wasn't gonna do well with it, as nasty as he was. So, and that show is a lot about, personal gain and things like that, with the other section of witches. If you didn't make it into the school, they have this big witchcraft school, and if you don't pass the test, you don't get it. So then you become some renegade witch that you have to sell your body and sell everything just to get spells. And it just wasn't making any sense to me, because, and if they were doing this back in the 18th century when they didn't have the internet and books you could buy, I could dig it. But I don't see where in this day and age, where if I want to know magic spells and things like that, that I have to sell and steal and barter to get a spell to practice on. I can look up 50,000 spells right now with the touch of my finger and choose the ones that or look for books or call Goddess Starr or somebody and say, hey, I need a spell. I just thought that was ridiculous. Wow. That they would have these little renegade groups of magicians that would have like a few pieces of paper that they would steal from one of the witches in the school to get the information. And I'm like, dude, you know what? In today's day and age, I guarantee you that if this were more true to life, one of those magicians in the school would have had a secret website set up that you could download PDFs of any spell that you wanted to download. It just didn't make any sense in this day and age that I would have to go and sell my body to get a spell, or steal something for you to make an exchange just so I could get a spell. And the worst part about it is that these renegade witches weren't stealing spells so that they could do some good for themselves or do some good. It was just to practice that and do spells. With spells with no point to them. Just to do spells and learn power. There was no intention with their spells. It's just, oh, what have you got? I got a spell for this. And they'll sit there and they'll practice the spell. Okay, what's the next spell? And they're not, it's like, where is your intention? What are you doing with this spell? Are you doing it to help somebody? Are you doing it to help yourself? What are you doing with it? They're just doing it just to have the fun of practicing it. And that's
the power of what
they power. Just because, I have to have the power and do this, but they're not doing anything beneficial with it. it really got on my nerves. So I couldn't watch it anymore, and I just let it go.
Yeah, because I remember you telling me, Star, you got to watch this show as a magician or whatever. I never got around to it. So
I'm glad that you didn't.
I never
really
saw it. But again, magicians are different from witches. So you said the correct things. Magicians are nothing spiritual about it. They have a tendency to be more in control, wanting to always control every situation because they have to. Whereas witches have a spirituality. But again, like you said, we learn to have relationships with everything that we're working with. They're not. So it doesn't sound like, I'm glad I didn't watch it because it sounds like it's not my kind of show.
No, it's not.
But I think they're all trying to ride off that cuff of Charmed and trying to find a niche that's similar that will make it big like Charmed did. And it's just something that Charmed had, just like it, and they went there with a bit of truth and a bit of, movie magic and all of that. And they had that formula that worked. So, but in a way, they're showing you the magician side. Magicians and witches are two different things together. So you are seeing that aspect of it, and it irritates you because you're not a magician, you're a witch. So people who are magicians would be enthralled with that. I'm like, wow, I want to watch this. This is great, whatever it is. Whereas to us, it would be irritating. And I do enforce that with encourage that rather, that people really learn to have relationships, whether it's your patron god and goddess, or if at any time, even if that is not your patron, that you work with a particular god and goddess, please learn, if you know that at some point you are going to want to work with a particular god or goddess, learn to create a relationship with them first.
Absolutely.
Because people say, well, I know my patron really well, and I work with that or that and that one only. Well, we know you're not. I'm going to reach out to a particular god and goddesses that has a certain speciality, and you've never had a relationship with them. Please learn to open your minds up, go beyond your so-called patrons, and learn to have relationships with possibilities of what you may possibly be working with future-wise. Learn to, like you said, all the elements and everything, but deities especially, very rude. Or ancient, if it irritates us as humans, imagine as a god or goddess, how irritating it can be. Okay? Even working with, oh yes, I remember people would, they would be working with the elements and they would say, I'm going to call in the dragon. And I'm like, hello, I'm sorry, ancient being? And you have no idea you've not even had a relationship with that ancient being, and you're waking them up. And a lot of times they're not exactly very getting to know you at the time when you're reaching out for them for help.
Exactly.
They're pissed. They're like, waking me up. I am sleeping or whatever it is, and here you are calling on me for mundane things, and you don't even know me. I don't even know you from dick out there, and people do it. They never think in that. It's everything with witchcraft I love because it's so logical. I never think logically. They always think, I don't know where they're thinking, in the airheads or whatever it is. I have no idea where they're thinking. They're not thinking in a rational manner on how would you relate to this if this happened to you. People don't think in that way, and a lot of witches don't. It's just not there. So if you cannot think in that sense of how would I receive this if it came at me, just like that out of the blue, hello, tapping on my back, come and help me right now with this. And I'm like looking at you like, I don't even know you. Who are you? Kind of a thing, So respect, please. Learn to respect everything around you and don't deny of all the deities or whatever it is that you think, oh, I'm just doing it with my one patron, my patron goddess or god. That's it. That's all I ever study and nothing more. You're negating a lot of things that I know you're going to want to work with at some point. And that's a shame, because you, as witches, honestly speaking, the reason we have so many access to so many gods and goddesses is the world of them. And if you don't open your minds up to them, then you're living in this one singular, and that's certainly not a witch. You've just segregated things, and you've just lineared yourself and narrow-mindedly so you're practicing your witchcraft very narrow-minded. Witches don't practice witchcraft narrow-minded. We just don't. We open our minds up to things. So you do have to think everything in a logical manner, see it for what it is, and put everything in the perspective of, how would I do this if so-and-so did this? How would I react if so-and-so did this? You know, you didn't even get to know me and you want to ask me something.
Right.
You know, just respect. Think of the word respect, and work with it like that. And witches have to learn to respect. You have to respect your powers, first of all. You have to respect everything around you with it. That's why you are supposed to be in symbiotic relationships with the earth and us, and everything that we use, all the herbs, the oils, everything that I have in my home. You know, I almost feel like they're all part of me, and I'm part of them. You know, it's just, you have to have a working relationship with everything and everyone that you're working with, you know, that you're using your craft with. What do you think, Goddess?
I am right there with you. You know, I consider myself a universalist because I do not sequester myself in any one spirituality. On my altar, I have deities, I have Yoruban deities, Hindu deities, Greek deities, Egyptian deities, Italian, the Strega, the Radia. Everyone, as soon as, if I learn of someone new or someone will come to me, because I'll tell you, once you start to read,
there you go, girl.
Do that, they will come to you and say, hey,
yeah,
I'm willing to help you here, and start making offerings to them, because I want to be able to work. Even Christ, I have a cross on my wall, because I want to be able to work within anybody's spirituality. If you come to me and you need help, I'm going to petition your gods and your goddesses, and they will listen to me, because I'm already making offerings to them. I already know them. We're already friends and family. So I can flip from Hinduism to Yoruban magic to Egyptian magic to Greek magic to Italian magic to Christian magic. Whatever it is that somebody needs, I can go and appeal to them. Even with the Native Americans, I drum to their gods and goddesses because I want them to know me, because I've had to help Native Americans. So I can go and drum for them, and their gods and goddesses will help out, because I've shown, before I ever ask them for anything, I have said, hey, you know what? I'm so grateful for what you're doing in the world. Let me make this offering to you. Let me drum to you. Let me just show you some respect. Maybe my drumming's not that great. Maybe I'm not doing it in the proper ceremonial way, but I am showing you respect, and they appreciate it. So you should get to know as many gods and goddesses that you can, because then you know the ones to call upon. You know that they're going to help you, because you're not just coming to them as a stranger with your hand out. You've already shown that you're there to be, you already have made friends with them. You've already established that relationship with them. You've taken the time to get to know them and make them offerings. You know, don't just sequester yourself to just one spirituality. Now, if you have a patron god or goddess that teaches you, I promise you that they're not going to get angry if you learn about all of the other gods and goddesses as well. You know, it's one big family. One of the biggest things that you don't want to do is put human emotions on deity. They've already gone beyond pettiness. They've already passed through that. And now they're here to be of assistance. So don't say, oh, well, you know, I work with Hecate, and now if I want to work with Diana, Hecate might get mad. Hecate's not going to get angry. I promise you she will not, because jealousy and that sort of thing, that's a human thing. Don't put that up there with the spiritual beings. They've already gotten past that. So go ahead, get to know your tribe, get to know your family. It doesn't have to be within one spirituality or just one god or goddess or just one element. I work with everybody, and I have had so many different gods and goddesses come and introduce themselves, and right away I take that as a compliment, and I will make offerings to them, and And if I have to ask them for something, I will, and they've all taught me something. So it is important to do that. And more importantly, you brought up a really good point previously, Goddess Starr, is practice, practice, practice. One of the things I've noticed also in those shows is when they first, you know, I'm going to use Charmed and the Witches of East End specifically, where when they first got their powers, and on East End, Witches of East End as well, I'm going to use the Witches of East End first because they had an aunt that was actually alive and teaching them how to do things. And even though they knew that they had these gifts, whatever gifts, you know, the telekinesis and all the other things they could do, when they first started trying, they couldn't make it work. And their aunt would be like, nope, do it again. And they couldn't make it work. Nope, do it again. And they couldn't make it work. Nope, do it again. And then finally, through practice, they managed to get that done. There was in that show, Dash. He was supposed to marry Freya. There's a young girl named Freya in there. He didn't know that he was a witch either. Him and his brother didn't know that they were witches until their mother died and they inherited the power. And he, by accident, like set somebody on fire. And he was like, oh my God, he was a doctor and he didn't know what to do. He's like, what the hell's going on with me? And then he started digging around in the basement and he found out their family history and he had all these gifts. So he would come home every day and go into his basement and practice throwing fire. First, he couldn't do it. He'd make himself really angry. And that's how they would do it. Even on Charmed, to get them to go their powers, you know, they would have to pull up some kind of an emotion and make it work. But they had to keep every day. They didn't just get it right away to control it. They had to practice, practice, practice. And one of the shows that impressed me the most on Charmed was Prue, who found out she had the gift of astral projection, where she could, you know, be in one space and then she put her head down and she could project herself and be in two places at once. And one day her sister Piper, I think it was, came into the kitchen and they saw Prue. Prue had the gift of telekinesis, so she kept trying to move this pen, and her sister's like, what happened? Did you lose your power? What's going on? And she's like, no, this is my astral projection self. I figure if I can do it in the flesh, I can do it in the astral mode. So she was practicing.
Yeah.
And her sister's like, great, you know, practicing, that's great. And so practicing is important. Not only is practicing important to help you improve your skills, it also helps you to know what gifts you really have, what works for you, what needs more work. You know, we all have inherent gifts. And knowing what your personal gifts are and utilizing them can really give you a leg up. I mean, even in the beginning, and I know you use Charmed a lot, but it's a good
it's a good pop-up, you know. It's
you know, Phoebe was very sad that, you know, that Piper could freeze people and Prue had telekinesis, but Phoebe was, I'm talking, a psychic supreme. She could see visions and things coming from a mile away, but she's like, but I don't have an active power. I don't have an active power. Well, eventually she came to really appreciate the fact that technically, even though she couldn't move things or freeze things, she had the strongest gift, because without her visions, they would have been screwed.
Yeah, a lot of times.
This is what's going to happen, or this is where we need to be to save this innocent, or whatever it is. Without that gift, it actually turned out to be the strongest gift of the three of them, because without it, it wouldn't have mattered, the telekinesis and, you know, being able to push people back or freeze people wouldn't have made a difference, because they would have missed most of those opportunities without her. So, you know, developing your psychic gifts is very important, and understanding what your gifts are really important too, which also helps practice, practice, practice,
yeah,
everything, because and it will let you know what your gifts are. And one of the things with the Witches of East End, Freya, who was a newbie, you know, she just found out she had her powers. There was a potion that she needed to save, I can't remember, they saved some people who had gotten exposed to some magical substance. And even though she was new at it, her aunt said, I want you to make the potion. And she says, but I barely know what I'm doing. She goes, you know what? I've known you in all these different lifetimes, and even in your novice state, you can make a better potion than me, and I've been around for like 1,000 years because she had that gift. You know, we all have gifts. You might have the gift of creating potions. You might have the gift of creating incense. You might have a special gift at wand creation. Discover what your gifts are. Discover that, because it opens up a whole new you. It opens up a whole new world, and it can only strengthen your magic and what it is that you try to do for yourself. So understanding and knowing what your dominant gifts are, and through practice, you'll find out what those are, because you'll find out what works better. Maybe you work with fire and everything works, and you work with water and not so much. Then it lets you know that you have the gift of working with fire, and you can utilize that and look up all kinds of fire magic. Maybe even you have the gift of pyrokinesis. You never know. And speaking of gifts like pyrokinesis, telekinesis, those types of things that we see on these shows, you know, I was watching one of them, and it occurred to me, you know, most of us, every witch I know knows that they've been either burned and or drowned and or persecuted in some lifetime or another. I know I have, for being a witch. We were persecuted and killed for it. And I said, you know what? I think, you know, we watch these shows and we see that they have these powers. I believe that we do too, but through centuries of having fear and pounded into us, and the punishment upon pain of death of anybody knowing has made us so afraid inside that we're afraid to even try. And it, you know, because we're like, oh, that's just for TV. That's just for TV. I think it's because we have had so much fear ingrained into us, because we have been burned and drowned and beaten and every other kind of horror that could happen just because we're witches. We've just been so afraid that we don't do it. So we just, as they said on Charm, we become witch practitioners because we use our spells and we use our talismans and our potions and things like that. But we're afraid of that core power that we have in here. And I really do believe that. I really do believe that it's fear through the lifetimes that has been beaten into us that keeps us from truly accessing that kind of power. What do you think about that, Goddess Starr? And what do you guys in the chat room think about that? We'd like you to weigh in on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's true. I mean, I think it's been suppressed for so long, or rather that fear has made us suppress it and ingrained that suppression for so many centuries, that of lifetimes of it, that it's even if someone says to us whatever that magic is, or maybe even, you know how you would see in one of those books where they talk about the shifters,
right?
You're a shifter. They're like, no, I'm not. I've never been a shifter. I've never turned. I never, you know, shifted or any of those kind of things, because it's been so ingrained in them that they're humans, or that's all they are amount to, you know, that's all they're going to be, you know, and that's all they're going to strive for. That it's suppressed so far, ingrained in them, you know, in the many lifetimes, not just this lifetime. Imagine in the lifetime that you are now, how many people have belittled you, and it's in there somewhere, and suppressed whatever it is that you had to bring out. But imagine not just this lifetime. If they've done this much suppression in one lifetime, imagine in all the other lifetimes it's being done over and over and over. You're not even going to try it. You're absolutely not even going to believe it's just movie magic.
Right.
That's what your mindset will believe, because that's what you are ingrained with, you know? And it's something that I think if we can go back a lot of times when we have had past life regressions and things like that, we see ourselves with different things. We see ourselves with different magical abilities or different things, you know, that has happened. It's kind of like, I don't know, thinking of kids today with all the different things that they're told they cannot do. Or like how in the movie Hidden Figures, women can't do math, but yet these women back then did the math and all the different things that helped NASA with the space program. You know, there's so many things about in our lifetimes that who knows what we really can accomplish if we were not ingrained with it already, you know? So I think that was a great point you brought up. Another thing you brought up that I thought about as you were saying, and I said, I write it down so I don't forget.
I did that too.
Because if I don't make a note to myself, I will forget. and I don't want to forget, because you mentioned about the different deities and how much you could work with so many of them on your altar. Because I also run into a lot of people who say they forget some things. They're stuck in, like when you see a baby many years ago, and then when you know it's 19 years later, and you're like, oh, he was a baby the last time I saw him. Right. Well, with gods and goddesses, my belief is that a lot of times people get the story of whatever they were, that's all we know, and we have them ingrained with that story for forever.
Right.
You said they've grown past it, they've learned to heal and go on from it, because I'm sorry, they've been around for so long.
Right.
So they've way gone past it, and here you are still talking about them with that story of them, and this is where they're stuck to you like a baby.
Right.
Hundreds of years ago, this is how I saw you, and you're still like that to me. And they're like, me, I've grown up, I'm old, I'm 3,000, 4,000 millennia, whatever it is. I'm so way past that now.
Right.
You're still stuck there. Because a lot of people would say, you did not put those two gods and goddesses together. They hate each other. I'm like, well, on my altar, they get along just fine.
That's the truth. That's right.
Everybody gets just fine. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not even going to go there with you. That's what you think. And that's the information your god and goddesses with, and they'll stay there. But the ones that I know, they're no longer babies. They've moved on. They've grown up, moved on, learned to get along with each other, and have now doing different things together. That to me empowers my magic more. And I don't think about, when I'm working with them, I don't think about who is mad at whatever and who of that story. I just work with them. And people would tell me, really? They were there together on your altar? I'm like, yeah, they're fine. It's a lot of it. We have to stop instilling that story and keeping them there in that mode. You're the one keeping them there. You're giving them that human emotion of, I never grow, and I'm going to stay mad at them, and I'm not going to be able to grow past whatever, and I'm still jealous. And they're looking at you like, please, I've grown up. Please see me as that 19-year-old or that 4 millennia or whatever it is. I'm so over that. I've grown up. And we keep their story that's right there, and we reliving it and reliving it and reliving it, and they're like, yeah, but I went past that. When will you see that? Go past it. See them for who they are, the grown-ups. They're no longer
exactly
that human emotions that you've got holding on to it. Stop keeping them in that mode. Stop keeping them as kids. They've grown up.
Right.
Let them be the new god and goddess. Work with them, see it for what it is, and as a matter of fact, they get along jolly well on my altar.
Extremely well. Extremely well. And I just say that too. Each one has to have its own altar, really, because I would need a warehouse, for God's sake. I have very limited room.
Yeah.
So everything.
Me too.
A dresser. Most of my stuff, I have in different areas of my house, but I don't have a lot of space here. And so when if I bring a new statue of a deity home or something like that, I bring it right in, I introduce and say, here you go, here's where your spot where you live, everybody, we're all going to get along here. And I've never had one problem. Not one problem.
Me either.
Everybody gets along. In fact,
they get along.
Past my altar.
They pretty much they pretty much have said, can't we all just get along?
Really?
They moved on.
They're here to help.
And people are still stuck there.
They're here to be of service too. They're here to help. They're not here to be petty and, I can't share this space with this goddess. What, are you kidding me? Hello, leave that crap for the humans. Believe that they have gone past that. I have never had. I've got all different deities from all different spiritualities sitting together in one small space, and they all fine.
And they're all from different parts of the world.
Yes.
And they have no problem symbiotically getting along on my altar, and not one problem with it.
Not one problem.
I'm sorry.
Not one. So
but people really do believe those stories and keep them in their baby modes. They do. They and I've heard it and seen it almost on a daily basis from people.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And I walk away. I don't say anything. I'm like, okay.
Right. You know what? That's their opinion.
To each his own.
Really?
If that's the way you want to keep your god and goddess as a baby, still in arms and not grown up all these years, you know, hey, that's on you.
That's,
It's not for me to say anything. And I walk away. I'm happy. They're happy with theirs, and I'm happy with mine.
And that's perfectly okay. But and one of the things you also might want to consider is that you have probably been a part of each of these different spiritualities throughout different lifetimes. So you're actually saying hello to old friends that you've already worked with from all of your different lifetimes. Gets along.
Yeah.
I've
and that's
never
probably
had a
part of
problem.
why they get along. Yeah. They get along fine because they've been with you through the many different lifetimes, the many different races, the many different genders. So it makes sense. You gotta, everything to me has always been very logical with witchcraft. So again, logically speaking, they're not in baby mode anymore. They've grown up, they get along. Different lifetimes I've been, I'm saying hi again. And who am I to sit back and say you can't get along on one altar?
Right.
Well, they seem fine to me all these years. They're there, I don't know, since 1996. Since 1996, they've been on one altar together. And I've had no problem.
No problems.
And like you said, I keep introducing them new ones to them or different things that I put on there. They're fine.
I've never had a problem with that. So please, and let's go ahead and let me take a look in the chat room, see what we've got going on here. I have to scroll up. So let's see. Because you guys have been chatting while we've been at it. Okay.
Good.
All right. So
when they chat.
Hey, Nate. Good to see you. We've got Nate who says respect his energy. He's under.
Hi, Nate. And thank you. Nate has been conversing with me about, that whole incident with the MTA and telling me how much he cares. Thank you, Nate. I appreciate that so much. Your strength and all of you, reaching out to me. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Very much. And also we've got JP says that sometimes the universe can be a trickster too if one is rude. That's true too. If you're being rude like that, don't expect good things to come to you. And then there was a chuckle about that. And he agrees that the last episode of The Magicians turned her off from it. I just couldn't take it anymore, so I just let it go. We've got Nate who says, Goddess Starr, I so agree. Would you say that these beings also want to evolve, and so we should know who and how they are in 2017 because certain protocols might change? I agree with that. I'm not the person I was 20 years ago.
Exactly. We've grown up. So why do we have our gods and goddesses still in that one mode story and saying, the story about them and they are still there in that story?
Right.
Really? You put them there. You put them there and you kept them there, not me.
Right.
That's your story that, yes, it was part of their story, their history. History, not the now.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we've got, let's see what else we have here. Okay, so he says, I only ask because Venus has asked for things on the altar and need to remember powers that she has that aren't in the book. That's right. You can get special information that's not in the book. And then we've got specifically Venus was saying, love has to be able to be fierce. And I used to be a protective warrior goddess before myths took my weapons away. And that is true. A lot of people don't know that Venus is also a goddess of war. They think of her as just a goddess of love, but she's the goddess of many things. She's a goddess of wealth. She's a goddess of creativity. She's a goddess of fertility. And she is a goddess of war. So you got that right, Nate. Thank you for the compliments that you're giving us. I appreciate it. J. Key says, I have a variety of gods and goddesses and angels throughout her place. There's so much fear about witchcraft Wicca where I'm at that I've had to fight off a neighbor a little over a year ago because of their prejudice and bigotry over my spiritual path. The irony is that they're Catholic, and it's not been beneath me to call Catholics just as pagan as me because they do pagan practices.
Yeah.
And so Nate says, respect and fear always have to be in the same conversation because we don't fear when we have respect, but we always fear what we don't respect. This is very true too. Yeah. And he apologizes to Jay Key for having to go through that. And Jay's like, she couldn't care. A lot of them couldn't care less, but unfortunately, I'm among some that are a little extreme. Well, I don't think, you're not, Jay, you're not extreme. You are who you are. And if they can't get over that, that's their issue, not yours. So I am, with you guys. And again, Nate, thank you so much for your compliments. We love you too.
Yeah.
And so going back, I wanted to also address something because I had started saying before that I believe that it is ingrained that we do have greater powers that we're afraid of using because, and I can also understand why that fear would still persist because quite frankly, if I were to figure out that I can levitate and fly and decided to take my broom out for a spin, I would probably be shot down by,
The terrorist.
or I'd be snatched out of the sky and taken to some government compound where I'd never be seen again.
Yes, experimented on. Like, how could she do that?
How could you do that? Or they'll try and brainwash me and turn me into a weapon or something like that. So
yeah, we want her powers used for our benefit.
And they would. So, they would.
Yeah.
There would be plenty of people that would try to do that. But I will say this, and I was actually telling, I had one of my friends has a group, and she wanted videos of things that we had manifested. And I had put this kind of together thinking about it, about what our old gifts were and how we can utilize them now if we really tried. Well, one day I had a past life regression and my name was Sina, and I don't know what year it was, might have been in the 1800s or whatever, and my whole family had the gift of telekinesis, and we were literally passing food around the table but using telekinesis. We weren't doing it. And I looked up and there was someone looking in the window at us, and of course after that my entire family, including me, was demolished. So I did, when I was telling a story to this other group, I realized that that might be one of my inherent gifts that I've just never practiced with, because a long time ago, and this had to be at least, well, I've been here for 15 years, so we're probably going back like 20 years ago, where my late husband and I, even though we lived in New York, I lived there my whole life, I had never been out to Montauk, and I wanted to go out there, go to the Hamptons. I'd been to the Hamptons once with my girlfriends on a weekend, but I wanted to go out and do the Hamptons. I wanted to do Montauk. So we decided to take a mini vacation and head east in New York. And one of the women that I worked with at the time, she went to the Hamptons all the time. And she said that there was this beach club there that we should go there. That was a lot of fun. So in our old minds, when you say club to me, I think like a nightclub or a dance club. And so we decided we were going to go there. We thought it would be fun to go to a nightclub on the beach, even though it was daytime, because she said it was open during the day. And so we dolled up. My husband put a suit on. I had on this long, form-fitting lace dress, and we went out there. And when she said beach club, she literally meant it was a beach club. People were there in their bathing suits, t-shirts, shorts. And here we are, dressed to the nines, although we didn't fly. I don't care. We looked fly on the beach. We looked good. And so, but we still had fun. We were walking around. It was this beautiful, it was just this giant deck. And it had a bar on it, like a kiosk with the bar. And it had all of these long metal poles that had flags around it. And it was right on the beach. And there was music playing. And there was a restaurant. So we really did enjoy it. And so at one point we went and we sat by, and we were in the bar area, but we were sitting more towards the water. So I'm sitting here on the bench. My husband is sitting next to me, and he's looking out at the water and enjoying the water scene over there. And I just happened to glance over at the bar, and there was this woman. She was probably in her late teens, early 20s, that kept looking at my husband. My husband was very handsome, so we always had girls looking at it. It never bothered me. But this girl was just, she just could not take, she kept making noise and trying to get his attention. My husband was completely oblivious. He was just gazing out at the sea, because my husband was a Capricorn, so he's always in his head thinking about things, so he's gazing at the ocean, thinking about things. But I see this little trollop, and now I'm watching her to see what she's going to do. Well, she's standing there, and she's got a bikini on. And at one point, she literally, no kidding, she literally spread eagled herself over the bar, and I mean leaned back,
Oh my
put her arms out, her legs wide open, and she would look up, look at my husband, do it again, look up again to see if my husband was noticing.
Oh my goddess.
I got so angry. I mean, I can't really even explain it. I just got so angry, and I looked, and one of those metal poles came right down, bang, banged her right on the head while she spread eagles over the bar. And I know I did that. I know I did it. Now she's all crying, oh, you know, and everybody's running over there. So now, because there's this big commotion, my husband turns around. He's like, what's going on? I was like, nothing. I don't know. Something fell on her. I don't know, whatever. So he's like, okay, well, you know, let's go. I'm ready to go now. So we got up, and she's still sitting at the bar crying with this big lump on her head. And I'm like, karma, bitch, because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. So you got your karma. And I smiled. I smiled at her as I went out, waved, you know, like, ha, 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 that's what you get. But it didn't occur to me until later that, you know, I know I did that. I know I cannot explain to you the feeling of anger and what went through me. And I noticed that on a lot of those shows, Charmed, Witches of East End, in order to get their magic up, they will make that, you know, they might make themselves really, really angry. Even on Grimm, I don't know if anybody watches Grimm, there's a detective Wu on there that got bitten by a werewolf and wanted to become one at the drop of the hat, so he would practice by getting that anger up enough to get that emotion out to turn. So I do believe that we have these gifts. You know, fortunately, I've never been angry enough again that I made a pole fall on somebody's head. But I do believe that if we really tried, we could bring out these gifts. Of course, with the caveat that if you do that, it's better not to tell anybody. Because I know I can pretty much guarantee you that you will be squirreled away to some government complex where you will never be seen again, or some panicky person is going to think that you're some kind of, accuse you of being a demon. You know, you might get a real religious, doesn't matter, Christian or Islam, someone who is against all this, who's like, oh, you must be a demon in human guise and try to kill you or something like that. So I do suggest that if you do learn that you can fly on a broom, do not do it in your backyard, because your neighbors will call the police, you'll be taken away, and we will never see you again. But I do think that if we could really try and do that, imagine the good that we could do, even in secret, the good that we can do to help other people out. But I really do believe it. And I'm wondering if anybody else in the chat room has a similar story of something that they made happen, you know, and maybe they couldn't do. I never tried to do it again. Maybe I should try, and maybe I shouldn't.
Practice.
So the next thing you know, the secret police will be knocking on my door saying, did you learn how to fly on a broom yet? Because we need you to fly over, you know, wherever that thing is and drop a drone bomb on somebody. Yeah. So, you know, just be careful.
Yeah, I think that whole aspect of practice, but at the same time, I don't want to get in trouble or taken off to somewhere and experimented on. You know, you're kind of counterproductive right there. You know, we kind of live in that age of when everybody is being photographed everywhere or videotaped somewhere because there's a camera somewhere. So in this day and age, not a good idea. Unfortunately, you know, you're seen by everybody with everything. There's a camera hidden somewhere.
No, it's true. In fact, there's even a show on Discovery ID. You know, they do all the crime shows. And they have a show called See No Evil. And it's all about cases that were solved because of all of the security cameras that are on the streets, in traffic lights, in stores, you know, in banks pointing outward, that they're able to solve whole crimes by following someone based on where they were where the camera just happened to catch them, if it was on a street corner or in a hotel, because there's so many cameras everywhere now that it would be almost impossible nowadays.
One of the biggest ones with Snowden, remember with Snowden, one of the biggest camera they talk about is the one on your laptop.
Yeah.
And he used to put a Band-Aid over his camera on the top because he said, and I believe that the government has that kind of equipment where they can view everyone. They don't consider us a privacy because they're looking for terrorists. or whatever it is that they're looking for. And so our computers, he said that they used to view people, and I believe that. This man is now exiled because of his belief in what he thinks he saw. And there's a grain of truth in just about everything. Speaking, I don't feel comfortable with my laptop up open anymore when I'm done using it like that. I have a tendency to all the way down flat. I refuse to have it up because I said just in case. And I believe that because they've got that kind of equipment these days. They don't tell us a lot of things. Don't forget, movie imitates life, or is it the other way around? A bit of both.
I think it's
and a lot of things that we see as 4% of what the sci-fi movies and stuff like that. I never know. So who knows? We don't want to have ourselves be taken away anywhere, and our lives or our spirituality taken away from us with that. So it's things to think about. It certainly is,
It is. Think about. The other thing that I noticed also in shows is, despite the fact that, which I do appreciate, that they make their potions and things like that, have you noticed that nobody in any of these shows uses a wand? I haven't.
I never seen. You're right. I've never seen any of it.
None of them use a wand, and I was wondering about that.
Wait, didn't they have a wand in Charmed?
No, at least for the 3 seasons that I watched. Because again, after
I gotta go back and look at it again because I can.
None of them. No, I watched all 3. I watched 3 seasons, and I was watching like 3 and 4 episodes a night. I mean, I was just drinking. I drink in when I see magic shows.
Yeah.
And so I was
wow.
enjoying it, and I said, you know what? No one in here uses a wand. And then on the Witches of East End, nobody uses a wand on that either. And I was wondering about that, why they don't use wands and atomes. I mean, of course, I have no answer because it's just a TV show, but I was curious because I love my wands. I sleep with my wands. So
no, they did have it, but they never used it. I remember one of the shows that the girls were outside and they approached a coven of witches to get something from them. I can't remember which one it was. But the girls said you have to tap into your natural magic.
Right.
And they were outside and they had an altar set up, a concrete altar.
And they were
and they had all of the items was on the altar, but I don't recall them ever using it. They asked me and they talked about it too. It was one of the shows where they told them they had to learn their craft. They had to learn what each tool represents. They were telling them about that. It was all part of the fact that the girls had to not just practice that, like their telekinesis or the different astral projection or different things, but their actual magical craft. And I thought that was interesting.
I remember that show because that was the show where they had to go back into time and they didn't have their abilities. And actually, okay, I remember now. What it was there was a witch who actually, they called her because she called the 3 most powerful witches, and they showed up. And since it was before they were born, they did not have their powers. So this witch who called them was like, "You guys are frauds. I don't have time to teach you everything." Because they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And she's like, "I don't have time to teach you. I need you to go over here and save this woman who's having a baby, and these evil people have her. They're going to try and keep the baby, and the baby's supposed to be very powerful." And so because they didn't have their regular gifts they were in a panic because now they were just regular people. And the witch back there is like, "Look, it's you use this apple to make a defense."
Yeah, with the laurel leaf and everything.
The actual flow of nature, of natural energy, just like giving them witchcraft 101, and they're trying to make these apples and do all this stuff. But I don't remember them using.
They didn't use it, but it was on the altar. It was one of the tools, and the Athame was there and everything, and the Book of Shadows was open.
You're right. It was. It was there.
Never used it. It was just there.
They just didn't use it. And I'm curious about that.
When you think about it,
I was wondering about that because I love my wands.
But I think in a way that was one of another excellent one of the shows. I think, is that the one with the Halloween, the Samhain?
Yes.
I think that one was. That was such a pivotal show, I think, because it showed them that all that magic that they have, that they've ingrained in them, you know, they brought forth all this thing that they, you know, the powers that they have, but it showed them that their powers were within them. No matter where they were, where mind they were in, sit within them. Learn to use your natural magic around you. And that a witch, no matter where they are, should learn, because they, like you said, they had to be learning witchcraft 101.
Right.
And they're witches in the new century doing everything, right?
Right.
But here they were sent back in time, and she was like, I don't have the time to teach you guys. You should know this shit already, basically. You should know this already. You're big time witches in the future. You know? And all these big time witches, a lot of them, they don't know just the main mundane things of naturally around them.
Right.
Because they're so busy being that whatever type of witch you want to call them, you know, and they don't know the fundamentals.
Right.
And a lot of witches try to skip over the fundamentals and the tedious stuff that they're like, oh, that's so boring, that's not whatever. That can be all part of witchcraft. It's so boring, you know, but that's the fundamentals are very important.
Right.
You know, so no matter what anyone says, yes, the certain things about it, like the what you call it? What do you call that one with the personal gain?
Yeah.
And so not true or whatever it is, but there was so much to be gained from the show with all the things that it can teach you. Because she was right. Here they were, these big ass witches, some badass from the future.
That's
and
right.
Here they are in the past, and they don't know the simple mundane things like
right.
the core apple and put the laurel leaf across it, and that's protection.
Right.
You know, and it has powers and all these things, and then even teaching them with the broom coming from the east to the west to bring it all the magic to activate the magic. Little things that we are taught in when we teach our first degree or second degree or whatever it is in our classes that we offer, that people really don't want to learn. They don't want to learn the fundamentals. They just don't. They want to jump to Spellcraft 101. You know, it is what it is, you know. They as you were mentioning shows, there was one I don't know if you ever watched it, Friday the 13th Canada.
I love that show.
Okay, remember they did the one on the witch, and I like that they did good witches, bad witches, whatever witches, right? But the one on the voodoo really was flooring to me, because you can tell they took original pieces from different parts of, like say maybe Discovery Channel or whatever, of voodoo rituals. You can tell they took pieces of it and brought it into the show.
Right.
And showed you. I'm just like, it's just certain shows. Yes, it's all TV magic, but certain shows really teach you things. Craft. In that one, it was the first TV show that I saw that took voodoo and told you things are not what people believe they are. It is meant for a certain thing. Don't take a religion and generalize it. They did the same thing with the witches. Right. And I like that. We did not just stick the show up there. Even Supernatural irritated me with certain parts of it. Like, I could not watch Supernatural. What they did with the witches. I was just like, okay, that's just plain old stupid, and I never watched it again.
Right.
You know? But to have shows simple as they were phenomenal when you think about it. They broke through things that no one else wanted to go into, and they showed their TV magic, but they told the grains of what is, and they brought in the fact that look at that show again, the one about the voodoo, and you can see the scenes that they had of certain voodoo rituals was like true rituals that were being done. The voodoo veves that they had on the ground, I was like, I recognize that voodoo veve with the different laws. And I was just like, oh my goddess, this is, you know, they really researched their stuff with it. They didn't just dabble in it, kind of a thing.
Right.
They dabble, but they like, oh, we will show you certain things though, because they did not want to misrepresent anyone's religion, and they treated it with a bit of respect. And I like that. You know, same thing with the one on the witches that they did. You know, shows like that, Charmed, and I'm not kidding. Friday the 13th is a TV series, not Friday with Freddy Krueger. But Friday the 13th, you know, there's a lot of people that don't know that. It's a TV show that was made in Toronto, Canada. From when I used to live there, because I'm from Toronto. There it is. That's you know, the TD Bank or whatever it is. Filton Street I went on, and I'll be like, wow, look at the show there, you know. But they did a really excellent job with it. And you should take a look at some of these shows because it gives you great insight into the things.
And you can watch the Friday the 13th show. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free on the
wow.
You can still watch it. And I
have the whole series. I have the whole series of it. So I really fell in love with it. And every now and then I kind of go back and I look at certain parts of it. I'm like, I'm really in awe of the fact that shows like this existed. They don't make shows like that anymore. Even like you said, Magician or different ones, they all take it a little bit further than where Charmed was or where Friday the 13th was. And they're trying to take it further. But in some sense, they're kind of leaving certain things behind. Certain things that might, you know, you can have that grain of learning from it and stuff like that. So, I don't know, maybe like how you said, magician is very different from being a witch. So, maybe they were staying true to magicians in that sense. Because they do have to live a life that it's not a spiritual thing. It never was. It's and so it's very different from what we know. So yeah, to some witches it'll be irritable.
And I did want to say, I love Supernatural because I'm always fighting everybody else's demons for them, so I can understand that. But you're right, and they would just kill everybody. And there was a point after a few seasons where one of them got captured by a group of vampires. And they're like, listen, we've lived here forever. We don't bother anybody. Why can't you just leave us alone? And they're like, no, you're vampires. You're evil. You're going to kill anybody. Prove to me you're good. And yeah. Like, okay, well, we're going to let you go. And they're like, what? We're like, we are letting you go. You know where we live. You know everything about us. But we are trusting you, and we are letting you go. And the two brothers went home, and they started talking and said, how many people have we killed just because of who we thought they were, instead of actually finding out, are they evil or not? Because not everybody is evil, not vampires all evil, not all witches are evil. It really brought home to them that they had made big mistakes by just killing off whatever they assumed was evil instead of actually investigating, and they realized
that. Right. So it's generalizing, and people do that every day, right? I mean, people do that every single day with different aspects of races or religions or different things every day, and they assume whatever it is without, you know, educating themselves about the topic and opening their mouths. Right. You know, when you judging a particular thing, do so with true knowledge and not just your skimmed versions of whatever, you know, that you think certain things said. You know, be educated about it. That way you can be uninformed doing whatever it is, you know. And I'm glad they did that because it irritated me before I could get to that. I never saw it beyond what I saw the witch.
It took like 2 seasons, but they finally realized their mistake, that they were just killing people because they thought they were evil, but not everybody was. And after that, they didn't do that. They just went after the actual bad ones. So they did acknowledge that. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh, you know what I wanted to talk about too, because I've seen this debate on Facebook, and it's really irritating me. Can we respect other people's beliefs? Do we have to constantly put our own belief systems on anybody else? There was a huge debate on Facebook about the purpose, since we're doing our Black Hat show, about the purpose of wearing our pointy hats. And there's the contingent that says, well, witches use these hats because the point at the top, they could focus energy out of and send it out to do things. And then other people are saying that's ridiculous. They were doing it because of this. It has nothing to do with energy and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? In your system of spirituality, maybe hats don't mean anything. But in that other person's system, it does. Why can't you respect that for that person, their hat is a magical tool and they use it to direct energy? I mean, this pen is a magical tool. If I want to use it as a wand, I can use it. I can use anything. Real witches will use anything as a tool. They can use whatever is in front of them to use as a tool. If I want to use my little cup to receive blessings or whatever it is that I happen to have in front of me, we'll use anything as a tool. Everything has a purpose for us and we'll use it. So it irritates me when I see that someone who maybe didn't learn about that particular lesson about how to do hat magic or whatever it is, to discount it and say it's ridiculous. I don't think that saying that about anybody's beliefs, just because you don't know about it, I don't think that's fair. You know, we have to respect other people's modalities, what they use, if they use, you know, if they only use blue pens as a wand. Well, if that's what they were taught and that works for them, rock on. I'm not going to put them down because they use a pen for a wand or they use their hat to direct energy out of it. You know, I don't know necessarily if that works, using the hat to direct it. I've never tried it. But I can see, you know, we've got the crown chakra, which is our connection to the divine at the top of our head. That's a very powerful space. I could see and understand how that can be used for that. So also, I don't think it's right for us if we don't understand a system of magic that someone else is using to just put it down like that, because they really attacked this person. And all the person did was put a link up to an article about how witches would use their hats to direct energy, and she got attacked from all sides. So can we not attack each other? You know, there's enough anger and fighting going on in the world today. If someone is doing something differently than you, then just say, okay, you know, rock on with it. It's not an insult to you just because you don't do it. It's not an insult to your religion. It's a matter of freedom and utilizing what they were taught. And to just respect that. If anything, take it as an opportunity to learn and say, hey, you can do that. How do I do that? I'd like to know how to do that. Instead of just saying, oh, well, you know, that's not the way I was taught, so therefore I can't give it any credence because, you know, I was taught only the right way. You know, those are the people with the Goddess Starr, and I call the itises. You know, the
no, it's not just itises, it's because they really, a lot of, I've never seen such belief systems before in my life, but you know, when you really think about it, Christianity, I got to give them props for certain things. They take their Christianity, and there's so many different veins of it that they've all come up with, and they respect each other for it. And they're like, yeah, okay, you practice it that way, I practice it this way, you know, and they respect each other for it. So I don't see why among witches, and considering we don't have a Bible, we don't have a set rule book,
right?
But yet people love to tell you how to practice whatever. I kind of just, when I see it on Facebook and it turn into long ass fights, they get so ridiculous with the fights because I am this way and whatever it is, you know, or I've heard them say things like, this is the way the Druids did it, or this is the way. I'm like, excuse me. First of all, you guys don't know shit about it. It hearsay from whomever, because before no one wrote it down, and now somebody did and they created whatever. What are you guys saying? You know, that means that any time in the past I could have wrote up something and you guys took it and said, this is what it is, and that's it, because she said so and so. Really? You know, or you know, I mean, you guys gotta sit back and practice your craft. When they were doing their crafts at home as witches, far from each other, they were each practicing it their own freaking way, and no one was telling them on Facebook, you know, they were just practicing their witchcraft at home.
Right.
And actually, when a lot of them did get together, they said, you know, and I did this and this, and it worked for me with this. Different things. They didn't look down on one another with it. I don't see why us, you know, because I think a lot of people are freaking cowards. They would sit behind on Facebook and they would tell people whatever, or they tell them off or whatever, To me, as far as I'm concerned, you're a coward. Because if in front of their faces, you cannot go one-on-one with each other and talk and learn to have peace with it, you're a friggin' coward. You know, because it's just respect. It's the same respect I have when my mom come at me about my religion and she's very Christian and I'm not. And she already has her view of where she see a witch is. And all I asked her was, Mom, if this makes you happy, this is your religion, that's yours. And I respect it for that, and I respect you for that because it makes you happy. All I'm asking is that this is my religion, my craft, and all I want you to do is respect me for that because it makes me happy. It gives my spirituality happiness. If I'm asking that of my Christian mom, who will we as witches to then turn around and come at each other and say this is how you practice it? Respect that person's the way they practice it and walk away. You're not there to instill on them your version of witchcraft. I'm sorry, but no, I am not practicing your version of witchcraft when this is my version of witchcraft. You know, we teach everyone about witchcraft, and then we also open their minds up to go home and practice their own witchcraft. Practice, practice, practice your own witchcraft. I can't dictate it to you. No one has the right to dictate it to you. So when they start that on Facebook, walk away. Just simply walk away from them like, you guys can go ahead and have your little bitch chat or whatever it is, and I'll walk away, and we're all better for it. That's just the way I see it,
I agree with you on that. There is not just one way. And that's not something that's just for ours with witchcraft. Yeah, I see that with everything. The Jehovah's Witnesses will fight with
That's what I mean, yeah.
I had to break up a fight where I used to work between an Orthodox Jew and I can't remember what the other one was, but it's much more relaxed. I think it was called conservatives. There was something where the Orthodox Jews like, you're not really Jewish and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, excuse me, first of all, get back to work. And second of all, quit disrespecting each other. You're both the same thing. You just do it different ways. Knock it off. So this is something that's in everybody. The Muslims will fight the Sunnis against the, I can't remember what the other ones are called. It's just people have this idea that their way is the only way, and your way is not the only way.
And the funny part is, you said it. You did say it. Everyone seems to think that their way is the only way.
It's true.
No. Publicly, when we get together and we practice publicly, this is the way I'm going to do it in a general sense because it's a whole bunch of us.
Right.
Privately, what you do at home, how dare you? How dare you, in my home, tell me how to practice my witchcraft and this is what it is?
Right.
Seriously? Get a life. Straight up, get a life. No, don't let people do that to you. Just walk away.
Yeah, just walk away. And let that be their issue and not yours. What they're really saying to you is that they're very spiritually immature. And there's no point in arguing with a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old is not going to get it. So just let it go, walk away, and they'll learn their stuff eventually. Don't even engage in fighting with them because all it's going to do is detract you from what you're trying to do for yourself.
And just as she mentioned, that age has nothing to do with it because I've met some 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds that still act like 3-year-olds.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes, it's very, very true.
It's just what it is, life, we meet them all in life and you just kind of walk away.
So, well, anyway, let's go to the chat room before we close out and see what we got happening in there with our pals in the chat room. Goddess Starr and I really do, I know that we say this all the time, but we really, 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 really appreciate you guys so much.
We do. We love you guys. And we miss you guys so much.
I miss you very badly.
We miss you guys.
When we're not here.
Yeah, we miss you guys because we enjoy the show with you guys. We enjoy answering your questions. And we were supposed to kind of answer some questions about ourselves, but we didn't remember to do that.
We got on a roll, but we will our next. We'll do our tea party once a month, and we'll get into some more questions because we kind of got on a roll about the other stuff, and that's okay, and we've got Eclectic Goddess would have popped that girl at the bar. Good for you, eclectic goddess. I should have gone over there and punched her too. I think the pole.
You would have probably had a puncture in the head.
And then we've got J. Key, who says, I cover my tablet and smartphone with that electric black tape until I want to use them. Maybe paranoid, but better to be safe than sorry. That's exactly right. Better to be safe than sorry. I am so with you like that. No school like the old school, which is Nate is saying, I'm in the middle of making a wand right now, several weeks. It's teaching me how to make it excellent. And Hollywood doesn't show wands and such because they don't know the tools are also deities. Very true. And it's too much for them to write into the script and too complex to spin into a sitcom. This is very true. We've got JQ who loves supernatural. And then we've got Nate who says, there is a lot of technical difficulty on my end. I couldn't respond. The show is really a joy to help my spiritual life and hilarious. And the fashion tonight is fierce. Well, thank you. He likes our fashion.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I was just like, it's the pre-Valentine. Oh, wait, remind me. Valentine's Day to all of you guys.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And guess what? Tomorrow is my love child's birthday. My son, my first son. His birthday is tomorrow. I have to remember to tell him happy birthday, baby. He's 27 and he's still a baby to me. See what I mean?
He's always going to be a baby.
Exactly. But I got to take my gods and goddesses and not do that to them. He's always reminding me, Mom, I'm 27.
Oh.
Tomorrow he's 28. So I'm going to tell him happy birthday. I hope I don't forget. I forget my own birthday sometimes. But but happy Valentine's to you guys. Whether you hang out with your lovey or your dovey or whatever it is you're doing, or just take yourself out to a dinner and a movie.
That's right.
And enjoy the self-love part. I take myself to dinner and a movie all the time. I watched John Wick this weekend and I had a dinner after. It was awesome. John Wick rocks. Okay. John Wick 2 rocks. Anyways, that was my dinner and a movie. But you can do the same.
Absolutely.
It's all good.
It's all good.
Okay. So Valentine's is all kinds of love. So help yourself and enjoy. And we very much appreciate you guys.
Very, very nice.
All right. And we miss you guys. Yes.
We love you. Merry meet and merry part.
And merry meet again.
And we will be back next week for sure to see you again. Yes. And we're just so grateful and thank you and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's.
Again, if you have, please join our Priestess View group. And if you have any questions, you can approach us there and ask us questions. And then don't forget also, Goddess Starr and I, we do spiritual consultations. So if you ever want to book appointments with us, you can book through the group or you can message us on our pages because we do have a lot of service. We never talk about our services. We always forget, but I do put that out there.
We should. We really should. We have to start doing that.
Services to offer you as well. So by all means, take advantage of that. So until next week, we love you very much and we thank you so much. And we send you great peace and blessings and love for the
blessings.
And we'll see you next
and many, many loves. Bye-bye.
There you go. Bye-bye, everyone. See you next week.